For years ago, my world shifted unexpectedly. I was 33, still shaking off the ashes of a broken marriage, searching for balance in a life that felt overwhelming yet oddly cramped. My divorce had wrapped up 6 months earlier, and though I wasn't desperate to fall in love again, I kept an open mind. That's when Lila entered the picture. She was 25, with lively eyes and a clever tongue. Someone I'd crossed paths with at work for a couple of years. We'd shared courteous nods in corridors and brief chit-chat at office gatherings, nothing deeper. Then one day, something sparked. A chat stretched beyond its usual bounds. A chuckle pierced the workplace mask. And just like that, she became more than a colleague. Lila stood out like no one I'd known. She carried a calm strength, a knack for listening that made even idle talk about the rain feel significant. Her beauty wasn't flashy. It crept up on you subtle and poised. She had dark, flowing hair, hazel eyes that shifted with her emotions, and a grin that could catch you off guard if you weren't ready. Neither of us was hunting for something lasting back then. She let slip early on that she hadn't dated seriously in 3 years, mentioning it lightly, as if it barely mattered. I didn't dig deeper. My own past, a marriage shattered by quiet grudges, kept me from pointing fingers. Our early days crackled with energy. We threw ourselves into each other like kids tasting romance for the first time. I'd forgotten how it felt to be so awake, so unburdened. We went on proper outings, not just lazy nights with a screen and a sagging sofa. One evening, we drove 2 hours beyond the city to stargaze from a hillside, sprawled on a blanket with a cheap bottle of wine. Another day, we roamed a flea market all Saturday, bargaining for old records and giggling at a stuffed squirrel someone tried to pawn off. We trekked paths, hunted down quirky eateries, and once, on impulse, jetted off for a weekend in a seaside village we'd never seen. It was wild and liberating. Storybook love you never think you'll live. The physical spark was solid, satisfying at least. Lila didn't claim much know-how, hinting once that her past romances hadn't been fiery in that way. I didn't pry. It wasn't my place, and frankly, it didn't bother me. What counted was the two of us. Right then, she started off cautious, a bit shy, but there was a tenderness to it that stirred something protective in me. I cherished how she let me in, little by little. Then came a night that rewrote everything. A few months in, we were wrapped up in each other, the room humming with passion and closeness. We'd always played it safe before, sticking protection, but that night felt distinct. Maybe it was the wine, her gaze, or the hours we'd spent together, joking and sharing everything and nothing. For whatever reason, we chose differently. She was on the pill, she promised, and we agreed to ditch the barrier. It was mutual, intentional, a soft step into uncharted waters. At the peak, she breathed for me to stay with her fully. I paused just a moment, but her eyes held mine, and I surrendered. Later, as our breath steadied, she said something unforgettable. "No one's ever been there like that," she whispered, quiet but sure. "You're the only one I'd ever trust this much. Like, if it led somewhere, if I ended up expecting, I'd be fine with it being you." Her words washed over me, warm and heavy, stirring something I couldn't pin down, pride, perhaps, or meaning. I didn't say much, just drew her near and pressed my lips to her brow. But inside, I felt chosen, unique in a way I hadn't seen coming. It seemed like pure truth, tying us together beyond words. A few years later, we crafted a life together. The thrilling, spontaneous moments of early dating had calmed into something more stable, more settled. We exchanged vows 2 years ago in a quiet ceremony with dear friends and family, then settled into a cozy home just beyond the city's edge. Life felt pleasant, not ideal, but pleasant. We had our patterns, our shared laughs, our minor spats about who neglected the trash. Our closeness remained fair, though less often, as it sometimes fades when you're managing work, expenses, and the steady pace of daily routines. Still, I thought we were content. It was after one of those typical evenings, after being together, resting in bed with the bedside lamp's warm light painting soft shadows, that things started to fall apart. I can't recall what kicked it off, only that we were chatting, relaxed and honest, the way you are when the day's pressures finally ease. I tossed out a casual comment about that night years back, How I'd been the only one to share that moment with her. How it lingered in my mind. I wasn't probing, just remembering, perhaps chasing a spark of that old bond. But her answer hit me like a chill. "No, you're not," she said, her voice even, almost attached. "My old boyfriend, the one I was with for 3 years, did a few times." I blinked, her words hovering like an unwelcome scent. "What?" I stammered, propping myself up a bit. "Yeah," she shrugged, turning to face me. "It happened with him a couple of times. It's nothing major." Nothing major. She repeated that when I pushed her on it. But it mattered to me, not the moment itself, not that some guy from her past had been there before. That didn't bother me. Her history belonged to her, and I'd never fixated on it. What stung was a deception. That night long ago, she'd gazed into my eyes and said I was the only one, that I was unique, that I held that piece of her faith. Now, she was casually admitting it wasn't true, like it was a minor slip. I raised it again the next day. I couldn't shake it, not out of envy, but because it felt like a fracture in our base. "You said I was the only one," I told her, standing in the kitchen while she sliced vegetables for supper. "You made it seem so meaningful, and now you say it wasn't real. Why'd you fib?" She exhaled, placing the knife down with a gentle tap. "It's not a big thing, Mark," she replied, saying my name in that tone she used to close the topic. I don't even recall saying it. Maybe I just felt that way then. "Can't you drop it?" But I couldn't. If she twisted the truth about something so precise, so personal, what else had she hidden? It wasn't about her past or the act. It was about honesty. I began rethinking every talk we'd had, every tale she'd shared about her life. Was any of it genuine? Doubt seeped in like a slow decay, spreading to the heart of our union. Since then, I've noticed more fibs. Mostly small ones, details that don't align. Like when she claimed she'd spent a night with her pal Sarah, only for Sarah to say later they hadn't met in weeks. Or when she insisted she'd never visited a certain eatery. Yet I found an old picture on her phone of her there, grinning with folks I didn't know. Each time, her defense is the same. "I don't remember," she'll say, irritation creeping into her tone. "Why do you keep bringing this up?" But then, she'll vividly recall some unrelated moment from that same day, dates, times, even her outfit. It's infuriating, like she's choosing which parts of her past to erase. There's no sign of betrayal, no hard proof she's concealing something huge. But the little untruths stack up, wear me down with their inconsistencies. I don't know what's real anymore. Was that night years ago just a trick, a sweet tale to lift my spirits? Or did she believe it then and later decide it didn't count? I want to trust her. I love her, heaven knows. But each time she dodges my concerns, the gap between us stretches wider.